welcome to an overview of Google Classroom for OTs. So the purpose of this is just going to give you the functionality of Google Classroom, where you can find assignments, where the stream is, all that kind of stuff. So when you log into the Google Classroom you're assigned to, you will see that there is a stream tab here, and that's as some teachers use it extensively, some teachers don't. Depending on what grade you have, teachers might have permission for students to use it or not. It's basically like you know how you have a a Twitter feed or Facebook feed. That's where all the information shows up. So the teacher that you're in for might have set it up so that the assignments that they post shows up here. They might make announcements here. Students might ask class-wide questions or post ideas, content. Anyway, it's just kind of an overview of this stream. So you'll notice in the stream as well, if your teacher is using their Google Classroom Meet link, that will be there. If this does not appear here, it probably means the teacher that you're in for is not using that link. So they probably would have provided you with a link that they use regularly. It could be one that they made in Google Classroom, Google Calendar that's a bit more open. So the next piece here that we're looking at is the Classwork tab. That is where you can create assignments for students, quizzes. These are discussion-based questions where students can just, respond to a prompt and discuss back and forth in text form. Material could be any kind of content material that doesn't necessarily have a response that goes with it, or you can reuse a post that's been assigned in the past. If you're putting in a math practice post that has all the instructions, you can reuse that. So it might be that your OT notes and plans require you to create assignments or quizzes or questions or materials. It might be that you are just checking in on the assignments that are there first. So let's do the overview, and we can come back and talk about assignments and creating them in a little bit. So you'll notice that there's probably sections of, these are topics listed here that the teacher has put for the assignments. And basically any of these materials will show up, classwork materials will show up here. If you click on an assignment, you can see kind of the content that's been disseminated to the students, see if there's a rubric to it. You can see how many kids have standed it in, how many have been assigned the assignment, and you can view the entire assignment by clicking on it. So this is probably the part that you're going to play for the most part when jumping in on something that's already been started. You're going to be able to see student work here, a little thumbnail that shows you the progress they're at, a full student list. By clicking on it, it'll open a new window. It's a Google Doc view that's been tailored by Google Classroom, and we're just going to look at the pieces of this view. Essentially, this is a Google slide for this assignment, but any Google Doc will come in this view if it's been put into a Google Classroom assignment for students. This is the Google Doc that students would be working on. So up here, we've got the students' names, and we can toggle with the arrows through our students. There's only 2 students in my class, test students, but you would have multiple students there that you can switch from. On the right-hand side, you can see if there's a rubric, how you might assess the rubric, comments that you can provide, and then you can actually put comments using the comment functionality like in any Google Doc right in the assignment as well. So you'll be able to see this live. So if students are working on it while you're toggling through students, you can see exactly what they're doing live. So this is probably a key thing to keep in mind when you're in for a class. We've taken a look at kind of overview, how to look at assignments, how to keep track of documents that students are working on in assignments. I'm going to show you a couple of the other possible tabs you might have. Some teachers might be using grades. Some teachers might not have it turned off. So you probably won't access that tab. It's just a digital grade book, essentially. So probably won't be accessed as much because you're less likely to be putting grades, or you're less likely to run into teachers that are using that tab. This feature is important to know. This just lists the students and the teachers and gives you control over adding teachers and students into your class. Also gives you features as to like perhaps emailing the student directly or being able to see the work that a student has done, right? My sample class is pretty late, so there's not much there. So we're going to go back to the stream. There's a couple of ways you're going to be definitely getting into Google Meets, and if Classroom is the way that they've set it up, this is one way to get into your Google Meet. Another way is through the Google Meet button there. It's important to note that Google Classroom, Google Meets are managed by Google Classroom to open and close when a teacher is present. The criteria is you have to be last one out of the classroom for it to close properly, so that it resets a new nickname for you. So if you're thinking about checking that out, there is a video about explaining how Google Meet works. So that big picture overview of Google Classroom.